Just a disclaimer, this is not a generator rebuild video. This is more of a survival guide to the MGTC generator. I was just getting ready for a little trip this weekend up the coast and doing my stem to stern check over that I always like to do before I leave on a trip. I noticed the generator had a bit too much play in the rear bushing, more than I like anyway. It would probably be fine, but it's an easy enough thing to change, so why not? So this is just a quick guide on what to check for and how to change that real quick. If your generator is worn out, you should really rebuild the whole thing. But the rear bushing is what wears the fastest, so chances are you'll be doing this repair long before the whole generator needs to be rebuilt. So first thing, let's take a look at the generator itself and look for what causes us trouble. This is the Lucas C45 generator. It's correct for the MGTC. It's different than the TD and TF. It's a bit larger and also different than the TA, which was a 3-brush generator. So with this, first thing you want to do is just make sure everything spins nice and smooth. It should be quiet. You might hear a little buzzing sound, especially if you go backwards. That's just the brushes on the commutator. So with everything smooth, you don't hear any bearing noise. The next thing you want to do is grab the pulley here and rock it. I doubt you can hear that, but I can hear and feel a little bit of clunking in the back. So the bushing in the rear here does have some wear and is going to need to be replaced. So first thing you need to do is get the pulley off. For that, you'll need a Whitworth socket. It's a 1/2 inch Whitworth. This may be kind of tight. You can use a strap wrench to hold onto the pulley, or you can use an air ratchet or an air hammer to get it off. That usually makes quick work of it. You can put a screwdriver in here to hold it. Just be gentle on these fins. They can break off, and these pulleys aren't cheap nor easy to find, especially these cast iron ones. You can get aluminum replacements, but these cast iron ones are getting a little more scarce. So this, I've already loosened this nut, so I'm not going to have any trouble getting it off. It just came right off. And underneath this nut, there's going to be a little washer down in there, lock washer. There we go. Now these pulleys can be a bit of a bear to get off. They can get stuck on there sometimes. If you're lucky, it'll just pull off by hand, or you might need a small puller. I've had this one off before, and I remember it coming off pretty easily, so I have high hopes here. So let's give it a shot. There it goes. All right, pulley's off. And now there's 2 screws in here that hold the whole thing together. So let's go ahead and get those out. That's one. I know this is riveting video here. Guy taking screws out of a generator, but we're almost there. Okay, here they come. They've each got a little lock washer on them also. And there's the other one. Now with that, you can pull this plate off. They can be a little bit sticky sometimes. You can just use a mallet, gently tap, break it loose. Don't go crazy. You don't want to break these ears off. This is cast iron here, and so it's a little brittle. At this point, you can go ahead and pull out the front plate with the armature. Extract that. There we go. This bearing feels nice. It's really smooth. There's no play in it that I can detect. I'm just going to leave that alone. Again, this is not a full rebuild. This is just to get the thing on the road. Look at your commutator while you have it apart. There should be plenty of meat left on here. There shouldn't be any broken sections. It should look smooth, but usually not polished. There's a bit of scoring in there. That's pretty normal. This all looks fine. If the generator is working and the commutator looks okay, you don't need to mess with the armature. It should be just fine. So next, let's take a look down in here. Inside the generator, if you look right down the center there, that's the bushing in question. That's the one that wears out kind of quickly, especially if you keep your belts too tight. Keep those belts loose. The fan belt doesn't need to be any tighter than just enough to turn the fan and the water pump. Any tighter than that, you're just wearing out that bushing quicker. While you're in here, also just take a look at the brushes here, and here. You can push them back down through their holders and check the back side of them. The wire is sort of attached to the back right here. So push these down into there and see how much you have left. If they're worn more than halfway, just replace them now while it's apart. It's really the easy way to go. You also want to take a look at the field coil tape here all the way around. Make sure that it's in good shape. You can see this one is in very nice shape, so nothing to do there. If that tape comes apart, it can cause you problems down the road. So just take a look at that, and also the wires that connect them here, they should be insulated. Make sure that insulation's in good shape. I don't see anything in this generator that looks like a problem, so I think we'll just replace the bushing and call it a day. Now, in a lot of other generators, you can just take the back plate off. Why go down through here to get to the bushing? Well, see this wire right here? Normally, it's not fixed to the rear plate like that. In this generator, it is attached. So you'll have to unsolder that to get the back plate off, and that's just going to take you more time and more effort and more chances to make mistakes right before you leave on a trip. So I prefer to just deal with the bushing right where it is, pull it out through here and stick the new one back in. How do you do that? Well, let's take a look. Ordinarily, you could just pop it out. Since this is not a blind hole, it does have a hole here that you can get to the bushing through. But the bushing is sitting on a ledge, so there's no way to get anything behind it to pop it out. So you need to pull it out from the other side. And my favorite way to do that, you can use a bolt, you can use a tap. There are different methods. Everybody has their own secret way of doing it. My tool of choice is a 5/8 tap. I just tap it right into the bronze bushing and extract it. I use a 12-point socket and just stick it right onto the tap. It's not going to take much force. I've got a little extension on here just to get it down in there. So let me go ahead and do that, and let's see the next step. So just hang on to the rear plate here because it's going to want to push off and you don't want to yank on that wire. So I've got a tool in there. I'm just going to go ahead and thread it in. Some guys like to stick a bolt in there and force it in, or some guys even tap it and then put a bolt in. I'm going to do it the quick and dirty way here. Don't tap it too far through. You don't want to start cutting threads into the back plate. Just a few turns usually does it. So that should about do it. Let me take the tool out. I'm leaving the tap down inside there. Now, the best way to do this really would be either with a puller or to get on the back side if you had a bolt in there and tap it out with a hammer and a punch. I'm going to hit it directly onto the tap that is still down inside here. Just very gently, because taps, as we know, are brittle and I don't want to break it. But this bushing is not very tight in there. If yours is tight, don't do it like this. Don't hit it too hard. You don't want to break something. One thing I'm going to do first is move this inspection band out of the way. Just loosen the screw on the side, it'll slide right out. The reason they have this this band here that can be moved is so you can inspect the brushes without taking anything apart. They're right inside here. But in this case, I'm going to look down in here and watch the bushing coming out to make sure it's coming out cleanly and I'm not doing any damage to anything I shouldn't be. So here we go. Just light taps. You don't want to hammer on this thing too hard. You don't want to break your expensive tap. There it goes. One extracted bushing and one tap without any broken teeth off of it. That's the goal. So here is our new bushing and the old bushing. You can see one difference already. The old bushing is a lot longer. I like to use these longer bushings. It just gives more support and they last longer that way. I didn't have one handy, so I have a couple of these hanging around from one of the big suppliers. I'm just going to go ahead and use it because a fresh short bushing is better than a worn long bushing. So, get that out of the way so I don't accidentally put it back in. The next thing you want to check is the state of the armature. The bushing could be worn, the armature could be worn, or a combination of both. And what you want to look for is wear marks here, any roughness. This one is definitely worn. You probably can't see that on the camera, but there are some grooves in it. I don't feel a big step, so it's probably not worn very far. But what you can do is slide the new bushing on and feel for play. There's usually going to be some play on there. This one does have a little bit. It's not bad. I can't really check the old one because I've cut threads into that, and it's not gonna fit very well. But I can tell this is already much better than the old one. The way to take care of that play really is to put this on the lathe, machine it down smooth. That's best left to a professional. This has to be perfectly centered or else the armature is going to wobble. And once that's smooth, you can make a custom bushing to fit that, or you can machine it down a little further and put a sleeve over it and get it back to stock size. Today, again, this is just survival mode to get the car on the road. I'm going to put some grease in here. I'm going to slip this bushing into the generator and we're going to be done. It's going to be fine. It's going to get me on the road. These bushings are made of bronze. It's a porous bronze. It's called oilite. And the idea is to allow lubrication to migrate through the walls of the bushing from the outside to the inside. The reason for that is you have an oiler on the TC generator. You put your melting grease in there as original, or these days whatever you can find that'll get through, usually a heavy oil. That lubrication finds its way through to the outside of the bushing and then ends up inside the bushing. So the porosity of the bushing is a natural metering method, so that your oil or grease or whatever you use will last lots and lots of miles. So you need to get this thing soaked up like a sponge with oil before you put it in. That way the armature won't run dry until your lubricant of choice finds its way in there. So how do you get it soaked? People have different methods. Mine is a pretty simple one. That is to fill up the bushing on a flat surface so it's sealed on the bottom. Put your thumb over it, make a seal, push down really hard without breaking the seal. Just like that. See my thumb getting nice and red. Now the level's gone down, but none has leaked out the bottom. That means it was successful. And the other way you know it was successful is look on the outside and you can see the oil's been sweating out of the pores of the material. That is a well lubricated bushing. Is it better than letting it soak for 24 hours? I don't know, but it's good. It's ready to go. So now it's time to put the bushing back in, the new bushing that is. You want to take one final look, make sure there's no grease and grime down there, just clean it out if there is. That doesn't do you any favors. And do your final check to make sure you didn't miss anything. Remember to take care of that wire connecting the back plate. If you yank that out or break it, then you're going to be spending more time working on your generator instead of getting the car ready for your trip. Also, take care with these rear threads. They can break off and then you're in even more trouble. So get the bushing and your installation tool. Put them down in there. I'm going to do this sideways so the bushing doesn't fall off. I like to do this vertically like this because if you do it on its side, you might pop the rear plate out and break that wire. So hold this nice and straight. Just tap it in, get it started. Make sure you're going straight. You can do this in a press. That would be even better. But I'm on a time crunch. I don't feel like putting it in the press. I'm just going to hammer it in there. Don't go too crazy. You don't want to mushroom the top of the bushing, because then you're going to have to deburr that, chamfer the end a little bit to be able to get your armature in. Yeah, it's going in slowly, but that's because I'm not hitting very hard. I want to take it easy on this thing and on those rear threads. Notice I've got a nice thick pad under those threads to protect them. You could do this also in a vise and just let the threads hang out underneath, but as long as you're hitting gently like I am, you should be okay. Famous last words, I know, but I'm hoping for the best. And when you start getting down toward the bottom, take your tool out and check. I've pulled the tool out so that you can see I'm not quite flush yet. You want to go past flush. If you don't put it in far enough, it's going to hold up the armature, and it won't let things get all the way assembled where they should be. So you want to keep going down toward the bottom and not hammer on it too hard. So let's finish this up here. Almost there. There is a stop at the bottom, so you can't really go too far. There we go. It's installed. Brand new bushing. There it is. So now it's time to put the generator back together. I like to set the front plate with the armature in a vise like this, just loosely. It's just sitting there, letting the important bits hang down. Get a bit of grease on the armature shaft there. I'm going to kind of put some extra on here because I know that bushing is going to be a little loose and I want it to last. And what you're going to do is lower this back down. Remember, you've got these two brushes in here that ride on this commutator. They're spring loaded, so you need to retract those as it goes down. And the easiest way to do that is just to stick something in there, maybe this punch, screwdriver, whatever. Clean the grease off of that first. I don't want to get them all over the surface of the brushes. And then what we do, once I get my tools here, let's bring this down. Try not to get that grease from the shaft onto the brushes. So get it down there nice and centered. And as it comes down, there is enough room that you can sort of let this thing go down. The wire that's soldered in there will reach. And then you can get your couple of random tools, whatever you have handy, in there to pull those brushes back. And then the top cap can be dropped down. So just get one tool on this brush, the other tool on the other brush. And put your thumb on top of the plate. And when you move these brushes out, your thumb pushes the plate right on. Easy peasy. Now just make sure you have the notch in each end cap aligned. See, this thing's going to spin until you get the notch aligned with the pin. There's the notch there. Let me get a flashlight on that so you can see it. And there's a little pin on the plate right here, and that's going to drop in. There it goes. And there's another one on the other side. Once that's in, go ahead and put your two screws back in that hold the whole thing together. And put your pulley on. Oh, didn't quite line up, did it? There we go. Last thing is your lock washer and the nut. Tighten that up nice and tight. Don't want that coming off. And once you've got that tightened down, at least snug, make sure everything is still spinning freely. Feels great. Check that end play in the back. I don't feel any. Okay. So go ahead and put your inspection band back up where it goes. Snug that up. Put some fresh lubrication into the oiler and put it back on. You're good to go. The only thing left now is to put it back in the car. Don't forget to put some oil in there, in the oiler on the back, and don't forget to leave the belt loose. Don't tighten it up like you would on an alternator. If you can turn the fan by hand, but it takes a bit of effort. That's about right. There should be lots of slack in the belt, just tight enough to turn the generator and the water pump without slipping. Any tighter is just a waste. That's about it. Hope this helps you out. Again, this was not a full inspection and rebuild. This is just a way to get you back on the road if you have a bit of play in the generator, which is the most common issue on these. Hope that helps, and happy motoring.